Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about the oldest martial arts in the world. So let's get into it. When people think of martial arts, they're most likely to picture the most popular things like Kung Fu and Karate, Taekwondo, Judo, and so on. While the popularity of these martial arts are widespread throughout the world and they show up in movies and television, they are fairly recent in the history of martial arts. So let's talk about the several lesser known martial arts that are still practiced today. There is a long history behind them, back to the earliest of the human civilization. In many cases, it's hard to provide the accurate date and time of the origin of each particular martial art style because there are no existing human records from that early in history. First, Taekwondo. Taekwondo is believed to be one of the earliest forms of martial arts in Korea. Taekwondo dates back around 50 BC to paintings found in ancient tombs in Korea of the Goguryeo dynasty. There is additional evidence to show that there was a large amount of militarized men who were practicing Taekwondo during the Goguryeo era. During the 15th century, Taekwondo's popularity was widely spread in Korea, and even the king practiced it. The term Taekwondo is used to refer to what is believed to have been the ancient Korean martial art. First explicit reference in written history of Taekwondo appears in the latter part of Joseon dynasty. By the end of the 13th century, Taekwondo was no longer practiced as a martial art in Korea. The survival was attributed to Songdo Ki, who preserved the art and passed it down to modern Koreans, who repopularized Taekwondo in the mid-1980s. During the development of traditional Taekwondo, there was an effort by some of the 9 clans, especially Mungdu Kwan, to ensure the traditional Taekwondo influences were incorporated into the then nascent martial art Taekwondo. Some claim that elements of Taekwondo were intentionally incorporated into Taekwondo to distinguish it from karate, which is Japanese. To the extent that Taekwondo has survived at all today is characterized as a martial art by its fluid, dance-like footwork. It utilizes a wide range of kicks, fists and elbow strikes, pressure point attacks, throws and grapples. In Korea, Taekwondo is recognized as a national cultural heritage asset. And in 2011, Taekwondo was listed as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. Next up is Calorie Payattu. Calorie Payattu is also known simply as Calorie, is an Indian martial art that originated in modern-day Kerala, a state in the southwest coast of India. Calorie Payattu is known for its long-standing history within the Indian martial arts. It is believed to be the oldest surviving martial art in the whole world, a history spanning over 3,000 years according to the Vedas, which are a large body of knowledge texts from the ancient Indian subcontinent. The word Calorie Payattu is a combination of 2 Malayalam words. Kalari means training ground or battleground, and Payattu means training of martial arts. So Calorie Payattu roughly translates as the practice in the arts of the battlefield. According to the legend, Calorie Payattu was created by Parasurama, who was the 6th avatar of the Hindu deity Vishnu. Many people believe that Calorie Payattu influenced the well-known Shaolin Kung Fu monk Bodhidharma, a Buddhist monk who was also a Calorie Payattu master, and he's often credited for teaching first the Shaolin monks of these techniques derived from the Calorie Payattu. This martial art includes striking, kicks, grappling, preset forms of weaponry, and healing methods. Warriors trained in Calorie Payattu would use a very light body armor, as it was difficult to maintain flexibility on the battlefield by wearing a heavy armor. Warriors in Kerala belonged to all castes. Women in Keralite society also underwent training in Calorie Payattu and still do so to this day. Keralite women are mentioned in the collective ballads of Kerala called Vadakan Patukal, and they are praised for their natural prowess. Next up is Pancration. Pancration is from Greece, which combined boxing and wrestling, but it also allowed kicking. According to Greek mythology, there were 2 heroes who used Pancration. The one was Hercules, who fought the Nemean lion, The other one was Theseus, who fought the Minotaur. Pancration was a sporting event introduced into the Greek Olympic Games in 648 BC and was an empty-hand submission sport with few rules. The athletes used boxing and wrestling techniques, but also others such as kicking, holds, joint locks, and chokes on the ground, making it similar to modern mixed martial arts. The term comes from the Greek pancration, means all power. Historians now believe that pancration may date even further back than 648 BC. It can actually stretch back to 2000 BC as a war technique used by the Spartans and Alexander the Great during the Macedonian phalanx. Although pancration was not reinstated as an event during the Olympic Games when it was revived in 1896, there are modern pancration tournaments and is considered a form of mixed martial arts. Shuai-jiao, which is known as Chinese wrestling in English. This is considered to be one of the most ancient Chinese martial arts. First record of its use was called Yao Ti at the time, and it dates back to 2697 BC when the legendary Yellow Emperor fought against Qi Yu. Yao Ti eventually evolved into a combat wrestling system called Yao Li that was systemized by the military for the Zhou dynasty. Yao Li eventually became a popular sport during the Qin dynasty, and the best Yao Li fighters were chosen to become the emperor's bodyguards. This martial art went through a lot of phases. It's now called Shuai Yao, and in the modern era it's taught at the Chinese police and the military academies. Malayuda is an ancient form of wrestling that originated in South Asia and dates back at least 3,000 years. It's one of the oldest martial arts. Several South Asian countries are practicing this, such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. There is a folklore about the legendary Malay hero who practiced Malayuda. Earliest written record of Malayuda is in the Mahabharata, an ancient Indian epic from the 5th century BC. In Sanskrit, Malayuda literally translates to wrestling combat. Malayuda incorporates grappling, joint breaking, punching, biting, choking, and pressure point strikes. Matches were traditionally codified into 4 types, which progressed from purely sportive contests of strength to actual full contact fights known as Judo. Due to the extreme violence, this final form is generally no longer practiced. The second form, where the wrestlers attempt to lift each other up off the ground for more than 3 seconds, still exists in India. Additionally, Malayuda is divided into 4 categories, each Yudan named after a Hindu god or legendary fighters. These are the following: Hanumanti, which concentrates on technical superiority. Jambuvanti uses locks and holds to force the opponent into submission. Yarasandi concentrates on breaking the limbs and joints while fighting. Bhimaseni focuses on sheer strength. Next one is boxing. Along with wrestling, boxing was probably one of the first martial arts developed by early humans. Boxing's origins are unknown as of today. We do know it was mentioned by Sumerians in 3000 BC, and several other ancient civilizations depicted boxing in their art. By the time boxing was introduced in the Olympics in 688 BC, it was already a well-known and consistently popular sport in ancient Greece. Today, boxing still remains one of the most popular spectator sports. It is an essential part of today's mixed martial arts. Boxing is a combat sport where 2 people, usually wearing protective gloves and other protective equipment such as hand wraps and mouthguard, throw punches at each other for a predetermined amount of time in a boxing ring. Boxing evolved from the 16th and 18th century prize fights, largely in Great Britain, to the forerunner of modern boxing in the mid-19th century with the 1867 introduction of the Marquis of Queensberry rules. It is also part of the Olympics. Wrestling or grappling. Depending on your definition of martial arts, wrestling is probably one of the oldest combat techniques in history, with the earliest depictions of wrestling dating back in Egypt around 2000 BC. Wrestling itself probably dates way back in early human history, as statues older than Egyptian images show what it can be interpreted as 2-man grappling or wrestling. Different forms of wrestling have been mentioned in the ancient histories of several cultures, so its origins are hard to trace. In ancient Greece, for example, not just boxing, but wrestling was a popular martial art and it was featured in the Olympic sports. Greek papyrus manuscript from around the 2nd century BC contains instructions for wrestling, making it the earliest known European martial arts manual. Grappling is a hand-to-hand combat. It describes the sports as consists of gripping or seizing the opponent. Grappling is used at close range to gain a physical advantage over an opponent, either by imposing a position or causing injury. Grappling is a broad term that encompasses many disciplines. These various martial arts can be practiced both as combat sports or for self-defense. Grappling contests usually involve takedowns and ground control, and may end when a contestant concedes to defeat, also known as submission or tap out. So these are the oldest martial arts in the world. Let me know if you practice any of them, or maybe you're practicing something else. Please write a comment down below about it. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video. Taekwon!